I'm from Denmark originally. I did my PhD in English at Western, and I've been teaching here for the last 2 years, coming up in 2 years. And so this year I'm teaching the introductory course to creative writing, which is called the Writer's Studio. And in the beginning of the term, we are looking at poetry, how to write concrete descriptions of the world, and linking that description up with a more abstract concept such as love, hate, anger, and so on. So guiding the students towards a way or an approach of adapting and incorporating sensual impressions of the world into their own writing, I like to use practical examples from the literature. So, for example, today I would like to talk about Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow, which is one of the major works of the postmodern era. It's a very historical piece of writing, so it takes place during the Second World War. But it's interesting for how it begins primarily to me and for my classroom. So the first line of the novel reads, "A screaming comes across the sky." Now that's referring to rockets being fired from Germany towards England. And it's a very dramatic opening. It puts the reader right into the present moment. The verb tense comes. So we are right alongside the narrator in England, watching the sky and hearing this piercing sound of the rockets, the screaming. So it's a very violent intrusion in a sense. And so it puts the reader into a mood of anxiety and anticipation, right? And so that's something I want my students to use as an instructive tool or some kind of paradigm perhaps for how to approach their own writing. How can I look at an object in the world, a moving object say, right? What kind of sound would that elicit? Okay, so what description can I use in order to really orient my own reader's sensual impression, right? So that is the most effective way of really getting to a reader in terms of making sure that that reader actually cares about the writing and has some kind of stake in the writing by actually identifying with and drawing upon the reader's bodily experience of the world. That's an important way of building empathy, an empathetic moment between writer and reader, because without that, there will be no real connection to the written word. So I find that to be one of the most important lessons that I can impart to my writers-to-be, perhaps we could use that expressions, writers who are just starting out and perhaps might have an idea that they need to draw upon and describe really abstract concepts in order to be literary enough, when in fact what we want to achieve as writers is to namely connect on a more sensual level with the reader that will ensure a future participation of that reader in the work itself.